It's funny. But anywho, like you can kind of exploit the leveling up system that way. The best way to do it is by using your smithing, by just making iron daggers over and over and over, because it takes the least amount of effort to make one. You just need like one iron ingot and one leather strip, and then you just keep doing that over and over and over. It'll cost you a ton of money, but it's worth it. And plus, you can get that trophy or achievement for getting your one level to like 100, which I haven't gotten, even though my smithing is at 100. Anyway, as far as gameplay goes, first person, is fine, people, argue like, oh, like, it feels like you're just kind of hitting at nothing. Well, I mean, like, it's a video game. I mean, like, you're not gonna feel like you're actually hitting something unless you're using, like, I don't know, some virtual reality thing, and whatnot. And people argue that it's hard to tell whether or not you were hitting them. Not really. I found it pretty easy. I could actually tell that I was hitting my enemies. I actually think they did that better than Oblivion did. In Skyrim, you can actually kind of tell, in my opinion. And third person, obviously, is better. They didn't really do too much. They got the camera angle down. I think the whole talking to people is still a little weird, because I kind of like the whole zooming in on their face thing. To me, that just kind of made sense from the standpoint of a video game. Like, I feel like these days, like, people would rather have their games, like, photorealistic and physically, and I mean physically in, like, the term of physics, realistic, as opposed to having it be like a video game. Like, I don't expect my games to be realistic. I'm getting sidetracked, though. Yeah, but gameplay's fine. I feel like I'm comparing it sort of to Demon Souls and Dark Souls a little bit when I say this, but I don't really like how you don't really gain momentum, like, or you move forward whenever you do, like, regular attacks and you're just standing still. I mean, while you're running, yeah, you can still attack, and that's fine, because you're going to be moving around anyway, because although, Skyrim is on consoles, I mean, you can kind of tell that it was sort of made for PC gamers in mind, in my opinion. I mean, you can kind of get that general idea, in my opinion. But, it's still pretty fun to play, and, sometimes, it's fun to I often switch between third and first person. I usually play in first person when it comes to Elder Scrolls, but third person is also pretty fun. It's not like a Morrowind or Oblivion where, it's really kind of just a pain. You kind of have to figure things out, in my opinion. In this game, playing in third person is actually fun. Voice acting, it's pretty good. They got a ton of actors doing different roles. They don't do that little universal thing where the same races and the same like a certain gender and a certain race will have a certain voice, or will have like the same voice, which personally I was fine with, because again, it's a video game and it makes it easier to identify what's what. But this time they have like several different voices, and they have like a group of actors playing like the races, but even still, I think they even got just like one actor like doing like different roles, as opposed to having like different actors doing their interpretation of the voice. Like 1 second, like you've got like the dark elf talking like, oh, sinister, be like, oh, hello, and like that little bird verse, and then another one you've got, I'm a member of the Blade now, I can hardly believe it, and like some Australian guy or something. It's weird. And speaking of the Blades, they return. But in this game, they're a pain. It's funny. I really liked the Blades in Oblivion, and in Skyrim, I hate them. Because they're so... It's weird. Like, looking back at Oblivion, the whole Martin thing seemed to me sort of like a big, like, reference to Jesus and whatnot. And they even talk about Martin, too. And they've pretty much... they say he's Akatosh, so... I guess Akatosh is basically God or something. Of course, some may argue that Talos is more like, Jesus, but I mean, I'm thinking in terms of, what you see and the whole Martin thing and whatnot. I think but the Blades, I get they're like these like really conservative like people because like there's a big plot point that happens with the leader of the Greybeards who happens to be a dragon, but I don't want to spoil anything because this is Skyrim we're talking about, but and they're like, oh, you have to kill the leader because he was an ally of Alduin, the dragon we're trying to kill. And I'm thinking, he's proven that he's a good guy, and he's helping me out. Why do we have to kill him? This isn't like almost, it's almost like bad story writing, almost, because I feel like that's just so one-sided. Of course, that might be intentional, because maybe the Blades are supposed to represent, like, one-sided, weak, like, closed-minded people, but still. I kind of got on my nerves, because AJB, I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it. Parthenax dragon, leader of the Greybeards. You get a mission where you have to kill him, and I did, because I felt like the game wasn't giving me a choice whether or not I wanted to. It was either don't do the quest or do the quest, and the way the game presented it made it seem like that, it was part of the main quest. And of course, this game is kind of, I feel like the main quest is sort of split into like two different things. We've got the Civil War, which is one quest, and you've got like the Dragon quest, which I think is more of like the main quest because it's like a conflict. But and then like one of the Blades is like, oh, we want you to kill Parthenax because he's a jerk, because like he worked for Alduin for some time, even though he's good now and he's helping me. He's teaching me nice words and even helped me fight Alduin at some point when I called him over. And it was kind of dumb, not gonna lie. And then like you go talk to him and like about it, it's like, I was told to kill. He's like, oh well, I understand. I'm kind of a mean person. It kind of got on my nerves. I mean, especially after after you kill him, like the Greybeards get pissed. But anyway, the point of like, I did that. Nick and I did that. We both killed him. And the Greybeards hate us now, but the Blades, they like us. And honestly, I mean, the Blades, they're kind of useless. They don't really do anything. Yeah, you can get more people to join the Blades, and you kind of form like this little mini posse to follow you around and kill dragons. But honestly, do you really need that? No, because the dragons aren't even that tough. Especially once you get the Dragon Wrench out, which basically like freezes dragons to the ground, so you can just wail on them. But then AJ, he beat the game. And then Parthenax, like, he gets up and he's like, wow, I feel really young again. I'm going to go fly away. And he goes and flies off. I'm just thinking, what the... So, what? What's the true sort of path? Like, did I mess something up? Did I say something wrong to him? Like, because I felt like the game was, like, not giving me a choice of whether or not, I wanted to sort of, like, squeeze my way out of it and, like, try and, like, find like amends. I think there should have been like a third option where, honestly, my main problem with the storyline is the conflict between the Blades and the Greybeards. They need to shut the fuck up, grow some balls, and be friends. I mean, that really got on my nerves. Just not because I didn't like that aspect, not because like it's a bad story or anything, but because it was just such petty, stupid arguments. I'm just like, can you guys like be mature for a little bit? Why can't you guys like work together? I mean, honestly, I kind of wish that this game had done, like, something where, you could have, like, set up, like, some sort of, like, agreement where they could be buddies. Because I like games that sort of, like, leave multiple options. Kind of like Risen. That's a pretty good example. They don't care how you do, but you're going to finish that quest. What else? But yeah, that kind of got on my nerves. And the Greybeards, yeah, they're kind of useless early on too. I mean, they don't do jack shit after you train with them a little bit. I mean, there's not really anything. All they do is like, you know, they set up the this like peace like treaty meeting that you have to do, where you have to make some decisions. But honestly, you know, after that, they're just kind of useless. Speaking of voice actors, they got Christopher Plummer to play the leader of the Greybeards, like the head Greybeard. I think his name's like Argnier or something. Argnier or something. I call him Christopher Plummer just in general. To the point where even Nick calls him Christopher Plummer. But you know, that kind of got on my nerves. It just because I felt like the game kind of glitched me or cheated me into killing Parthenax. Because one, I felt like I didn't really have a choice quest wise. I didn't have a choice story wise, because I felt like that because the game kind of presented itself like, okay, you've killed the main bad guy, now kill this one last dragon. And of course, he did hint that he was tempted, which kind of made me sort of think about, wait, well, maybe I should kill him. But now I felt kind of bad. Though, on the other hand, since it was a quest, I would have done it anyway. I did the same thing in Oblivion with the arena. Only difference was the consequence was both minor and a little more major, because in Oblivion, like, there would be certain stuff that actually counted as like a murder versus like self-defense, essentially. And that would start the whole Dark Brotherhood thing. And that was my main reason for not wanting to do that, because I didn't want to join the Dark Brotherhood. And then once I learned that you could kill Lucien LeChance, even though he dies anyway. What else? I'm kind of losing my train of thought a little bit every now and then, but in this case, I got it back. You know, it was like the only consequence was that you were just choosing sides. I think that's sort of the main point of this game, choosing sides. This Skyrim is basically just one big civil war that's going on, essentially. But in both the dragon storyline and the actual like Civil War storyline, which both have resolutions. And according to if you join the Stormcloaks, you actually get to kill the Blades, which is interesting. That seems to be like the only time you actually get to kill the Blades. Heck, I would have been willing to kill them off. But, you know, doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't think this game is gonna do the Dragon Age thing, where it's like, depending on what you did in the previous game, it would affect what you did in this game. As cool as that would be, but I would honestly prefer if they would do it in like a different game. Because I think in the next Elder Scrolls game, I'll try to be a little more careful in what I do and how it will affect. I'll probably do some research and make a decision based on that. You know, just for the sake of getting the best possible outcome I want. What else? Quests, they're fine. We've got the Fighters Guild or the Companions and the Mages Guild or the College of Winterhold or the Bard's College. They're kind of split into two different things. And Dark Brotherhood and Thieves Guild, which is kind of like broken up. And then, of course, there's the Blades, which kind of, a little bit. Oh, and Esbern, he's voiced by Max von Sydow, which is kind of cool. And Wes Johnson, who voiced the male Imperials in Oblivion, as well as Sheogorath. He returns for Sheogorath, which I think is pretty cool. Apparently, several of like the good actors from Oblivion, like Craig Seckler, who did the Dark Elf or did all the elves. He apparently is someone, and he sounds. I've heard something about him. I don't know, but you know. But yeah, I don't really know what else I can say about this game. I mean, they have an upgrade system, so you can keep your same weapons and armor. You just have to upgrade them, and they become stronger. And they get to a point to where they're their highest little thing. And then there's the whole Daedric quest. They have those. You can even do Mehrunes Dagon again and get Mehrunes Razor. But, you know. But, yeah.